Hey guys, what's up? It's Joe Raiti from Raiti's Rides. We are here at the New York Auto Show, 125th anniversary for this 2025 edition of the Iconic Show. And of course, we had to start off at the Nissan booth because look at what we have here. This is it. This is a 2025 Nissan Z Nismo. But before we get into this Z that's been pumped up with some steroids, let's talk about what's going on here. So that iconic Z car goes all the way back to 1970 with the 240Z. Man, has it been one heck of an adventure with all the iterations of Nissan's iconic Z car. Now, with this current generation, it really blends style from the past with a lot of modern tech and the return of twin turbocharged power. Now, the Z Nismo is that extra special track focus Z over the Z and the Z Performance. For 2025, there's not a whole lot of major changes, but I think two things that are gonna stand out in a big way are colors. Two iconic colors are coming to the Z and the Z Nismo, and guess where they're coming from? The legendary GTR. GTR is dead as of model year 2024. We'll have to wait and see whether an R36 model is coming and what that R36 is gonna be all about when it does arrive. But why don't we go ahead, let's dive into the Z Nismo, talk about what makes it so special, and talk about the colors that are new for 2025. Let's go ahead, let's dive in and check it out. Right off the bat, the color. This is new for 2025. It is that solid red with the black painted roof. That color has only been seen on a GTR to this day. The other color is probably the most legendary of all colors from Nissan. That is Bayside Blue. So you look at any of those GTRs, Fast and the Furious, over the different generations of that series, Bayside Blue is the one that people really crave. But also, besides Brando, you're gonna crave this solid red with the black roof. Now, as we drop down, you'll notice that iconic style. Love the way they keep it very, very sleek, but also, like I said, that blending with the 240Z, LED daytime running lamps, both top and bottom, LED headlights, and then everything else is that smooth, bright red painted surface. Now, one thing with the Z you're gonna notice, the Z Nismo, is you're gonna get those extra fender flare portions because we do have a little bit wider wheel and tire, and then you'll notice the aggressive splitter and also side dive planes that they put. These are functional aero pieces that make this a more track focused Z. Now, what's fascinating is with this being bright red, all the red accents that you normally find on a Z, like on the bottom lip splitter here, are gonna blend in very nicely. Now, with other colors, you could get it in silver, of course, black, white. Then you have that kind of two-tone pop to it. But I really like that red, how it all blends in super clean. Now, as we kind of wiggle waggle and come across that front nose, the Z Nismo gets its own specific nose, and they call this the G nose. This was a front end that was only available in the Japanese market from the past. Now it's on the new Z Nismo. So I love the way you have your Nismo badging. Remember, Nismo stands for Nissan Motorsports. Gloss black, fully functional, and then look at that splitter. Lori actually ate her breakfast off the front end of this splitter. That's how massive it is. Gonna channel all the air for brake cooling, the heat exchangers, and aerodynamic efficiency. And then you have that top portion of the front end. But let me know what your thoughts are with the bright red, and then of course with that G nose. Now, as we rise up, hood is gonna be the same no matter if you're looking at a Z Performance or the Z Nismo. It's got that nice rise, and then it plateaus. That's another signature look from the original 240Z to blend in the past with the present. Now, as we come around the bend, of course, if we have a unique front end, we have unique wheels and tires. What you're gonna get are these raised forged wheels. Love that wide V-spoke design. You got the Nismo embossed in the wheel. Forged wheel is gonna be lighter. It's gonna be stronger than cast aluminum. That's gonna help with your rotating mass. You'll also see the increase in brake capacity with those large Ragu sauce painted calipers, and of course the rotors on top of that as well. And then the tires, this is another thing taken from the GTR. So you're gonna have those very sticky Dunlop, sticky track day tire. And what's great is that if you look from the side here, you can really see how that red pops out nicely with the actual brakes and the wheel from behind it, but really has a great look. And then suspension. So they retuned all the suspension, the dampers, the chassis to make it more rigid, and there's that flared fender portion. Now, as we kind of scooch down, I want to show you this lower side skirt. This is unique to the Nismo. That bright red that is the Nismo signifying color matches perfectly with the red of this 2025 Z Nismo. And then coming down the side, you'll notice the gloss black painted on your mirror caps. Got a little bit of that red trim there. Underneath the hood, what are we talking about power-wise? You have that 3-liter twin-turbo V6, 420 horsepower. Of course, they remapped and retuned where that torque delivery from that 3-liter twin-turbo V6 comes into play. The only zonk I have on this car, and it's a doozy, is no manual transmission is available. The only transmission is the 9-speed automatic. So something to think about when you're looking at what type of sports car you want. Now coming down the side, that two-tone looks great. With the red, you got your samurai sword blade that kind of separates the colors. Love the way it comes into that rear quarter panel. And then even the door handles. This was a smart move. They're basically flush, and the door handle is built in perfectly. And you'll notice that side skirt I was telling you about, how top portion gets tapered in, and then the side skirt actually follows all the way back to our rear tire setup. These wheels are 19 inches in diameter, all 4 corners, 285 on the width on the rear here, 30 series sidewall. You got the same style brake calipers, all 4 corners, and of course you're gonna have a limited slip diff. They even flare the rear of the vehicle as well because of the extra width of the sticky Dunlop tires with those raised wheels. And then going from the flare into the lower corner here, just like the splitter, you got the red with the black comes into the rear of the vehicle, and that's where you're gonna have your kick-up spoiler. Interesting how they decided to keep the spoiler not too high. So if you look at Z Nismos from the past, some of them had an actual pedestal wing. This does not, but it does have your increased wings on the side for your spoiler as it comes into that rear fender. Love the way that they did that hatch style. Very, very sleek coming into the rear of the vehicle. And then as we drop down, of course, you're gonna have all your familiar badging. The Z badge, we got those tail lights, all LED that mimic the Z32Z. That's one of my favorites, the 300ZX twin turbo from the early 90s. And then the back rear diffuser is all specific to the Nismo. You got your badging. Love the way they did this lower portion like a freaking Nissan Super GT race car. And then you have your dual outlet exhaust / cut to give that twin turbo V6 a nice sound to it. But why don't we go ahead, let's get inside because there's some special touches I want to show you in the Z. All right, guys, we got the hood popped. You do have a prop rod. I am gonna zonk that. There should be hood struts underneath to hold everything up, but you'll notice that beefy strut tower brace from one shock top mount to the other to stiffen up the front end. Tasteful engine cover. I was just hoping for something that was a little bit more Nismo specific, because this is the same engine cover from your standard Z, but underneath is where you're gonna get an increase in some goodies. So what do we have? We have that 3-liter twin turbo V6 with the Z Nismo. It produces 420 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, quarter mile in 12.3 seconds, and a top speed of around 170 miles an hour. At the end of the day, with the automatic transmission, the car weighs right around 3,600 pounds. It's one of those things. I know a lot of people were hoping for more horsepower. Fingers crossed, down the road, Nissan will add to this platform, especially, please, Nissan, because I would be a buyer, bring a manual transmission to the Z Nismo. But why don't we go ahead, let's get inside and see what's special about this Z. All right, guys, we're inside this 2025 Nissan Z Nismo, that new color, the black with the black roof with the red body, and then of course I want to see this thing in Bayside blue. Now I know you're probably saying to yourself, well, Joe, how much is it? I want a new sports car. I love the Z. How much is it? So MSRP, you're looking right around $67,000. Is it worth the price? Let's go ahead and find out. To the door panels, what you're gonna find is that nice, smooth, soft touch material up top. You have gunmetal flat gray finish on the door handles. The one thing that's missing on the interior of the door panel there is, where's my red Nismo stitching? So that's definitely a zonk, but I love the Alcantara, no gloss black. And then the best news is you can still get your New York dog in that door pocket with extra sauerkraut and relish and a large root beer to wash it down. We got the Bose sound system, but you're not gonna wanna listen to music in here. You're gonna wanna hear that twin turbo V6. Now, as you go from the door panel to the dash, you see how the stitching, it would have been needlepoint perfect to have this in red. Let me know how you feel about that in the comment section. But as you slide in, you have your 9-inch infotainment system, same as before. The one thing I would like to see added to the infotainment system is some performance gauges, or maybe some type of performance meter system. Maybe even something like what Chevrolet has with their performance data recorder. I do adore the triple analog gauges up top. Gives it that classic Z look. More of that stitching. AC controls, very simple, standard AC controls, no dual climate or anything like that. No wireless charging, which is a shock. 2 USB-Cs, but the good news is without wireless charging, you could fit 4 Twinkies in there, no problem. You got your D mode selector switch in red because this is the Nismo, and D doesn't stand for what you think. Get your head out of the gutter. It's your drive mode selector switch. There's our Nismo bright red start stop button. This is our electric shifter, very weird looking thing for our 9-speed automatic. I want a manual and I want it now. You got your mechanical e-brake, 2 cup holders, and one of them you could actually hide. So if you're like me, I don't want people to drink in my car, especially when it looks this good. So just tell them, hey, I only have 1 cup holder, and you could just put a bottle in there and you don't drink out of it. It's just so that nobody drinks in your car. Just don't go like this, because then you're gonna show another cup holder. You lift this up, and then what happens is you do have some simple storage in there. You got a 12 volt, and you could put, I would say, probably 2 Casio watches. I'm not so sure if you're gonna wanna put a Rolex in there, or if you even have a Rolex. I'd rather spend my money on cars, not watches. Just saying. Seats, I love the Recaros. I want to just rip this out and bring it on the plane with me. I love the red, the embroidery, the bolstering. It is all manual control, but that's how a sport performance seat should be. Nicely set up. Back seat, there isn't any, but you'll notice you have about 8 cubic feet of space back there. You see the silver bar? That's the rear strut brace, just like we had underneath the hood to stiffen up the back of the car. And remember, the Z Nismo has more bracing underneath it to really make the chassis nice and rigid. But why don't you come over here to the business end? I want to show you behind the wheel with the Z on it in the Z Nismo. All right, guys, we're in it to win it in this Z Nismo. Pedal box right out of a race car. Love the aluminum dead pedal. See, it's real simple. You could put an aluminum dead pedal on a car, aluminum brake, and aluminum throttle. I just want a clutch. Where's my clutch pedal? You got Nismo embroidered floor mats. That's worth an extra 5 horsepower. Seat controls are all manual. Now, the one thing I don't love about the manual controls in the Z Nismo is that you have to turn them. It's like turning the hands of time. Like, I'd rather just have a lever. Make it real quick. Because if you're trying to get out on the track, you don't have all day to turn wheels. You just got to pull the levers and get it locked and loaded. Once you are locked and loaded, there's a nice amount of room in here. I'm 6 feet tall. You can get your helmet on, steering wheel. Look at this, the Alcantara, the leather. They did finally do some red stitching. So somebody at the factory did have some red yarn so that we could get that red stitching in there. You got the bright red top dead center. flat gray on your thumb wheel drive controls, and then you have enlarged paddles to go up and down that 9-speed automatic. It is a manual tilting and telescoping wheel, and then of course you got that beautiful Z Nismo specific gauge cluster, 12.3-inch large tack, red lines at 7,000 RPM, and you have your F1, those Formula One style shift lights, and I love the auxiliary gauges in this vehicle as well. But you know, say what you want about this Z Nismo, but it's just great that Nissan is stepping up to the plate and still bringing the Z car and a Z Nismo. Let's keep our fingers crossed for some changes, like a manual transmission. I want to take you on throttle. We will be in a Z Nismo, so stay tuned for that, but we got to wrap it up from New York. All right, guys. It's always a good day here at the New York Auto Show. Definitely got to thank Casey, Josh, and the rest of the crew at Nissan USA for giving us private time with this Z Nismo, especially in that GTR borrowed color with the black roof and the red body. But let me know what you think. Have we been cheated with the Z Nismo? Should they have done more? Let me know your thoughts in that comment section. But if you're new to the channel, you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile. Come back for more. If you are a subscriber, think you're being part of the Raise Rights family, got to give it up to LGR. She's running this town and she's running this show and doing a hell of a job with that camera. So thank you, Lori, for being as awesome as you are. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.